Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Sam, I'm an artist, illustrator and an aspiring knitting designer coming to you from Dublin in the Republic of Ireland. In the very windy and very rainy and extraordinarily cold Republic of Ireland today. I'm very sorry for the lighting situation. I had to turn on my main living room lighting because outside is extraordinarily dark and very rainy, but I have my beautiful woolly jumper on, a cup of coffee just made, and I'm very happy to be with you here today. This is gonna be our last episode of the year, regular episode. By the way, if you are new to this channel, this is a knitting podcast, so I will talk about finished works, works in progress, sometimes acquisitions, although I am trying to restrain myself a little bit, and anything that is going on in my crafty and knitting world. And there's many new people to this channel since last episode. I'm very happy, so I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you do, please consider to share these videos or send me a comment, give it a thumbs up, all the stuff that decent YouTubers say all the time. Anyway, the house today smells extraordinarily wintry. I just got all my Christmas decorations around, a lot of how's it called in English? I called it potpourri in Italian. I have no idea if it's the same in English. Those little dried flowers and pine cones that are soaked into scents, and I choose a very Christmassy scent, so I'm very happy. And then the coffee just made is filling the house. It's a very cozy morning. Such a pity for the wind outside, but I really hope it doesn't impact the audio of this video too much. So why is it gonna be the last episode? Well, I have been planning for a while an advent calendar, sort of a Vlogmas, and it is my very first time as a crafter sharing on YouTube that I plan to film every day a video throughout December. So I don't know really how much time between regular life, work life, office, knitting, and doing some art, and as well filming. I will have to film a longer episode, and it's not just the filming, but it's the editing that take a long time. I should probably think of streamlining the situation a little bit better, and yeah, just not edit so much, but you know what I mean. Anyway, what am I wearing today? This is my Ridari sweater. It's a pattern from Istex, which is the brand that does Lopi yarn. It's an Icelandic brand, and yeah, I finished this last time. You saw this jumper probably blocking or wet. I couldn't wear it, so here it is, and it gives you an idea on how it wears. I am really pleased with this jumper, both the color choice and the construction itself. I spoke a lot about this jumper in my previous episode, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much, but just to give you a brief overview. This is a bottom-up sweater with a circular yoke. I added a few short rows on the back in order to get the jumper to wear better and to fit better on my shoulders and my neck. And yeah, that's basically it. I haven't done any other modifications, to be honest. The jumper calls for a folded, raveled, I don't know, twirly type of collar, cuffs and ribbing generally. I skipped that because yeah, I had bad experiences with that type of sweaters before, and I don't know if I would have wore such a instruction, such a feature, so I went for a regular 1x1 maybe, which by the way is in the pattern as well. The pattern is very skinny, very simple, and there's no many instructions. It's just a very brief kind of recipe of pattern. It calls for one of those Icelandic yarns. I think, if I'm right, is a letlopi, which is a sort of a worsted weight yarn. It's quite thick, and the gauge is very large. I, though, didn't have any in stock. And as well, I wanted to get rid of some old stash that I've there. So I decided to use a combination of colors from Drops Lima, which is a yarn that combines wool, alpaca, and, if I'm correct, some synthetic fibers as well. It's becoming one of my favorite yarns because, first of all, it's not itchy at all, and that is my main kind of issue with yarns usually, the itchiness against the skin. This is a little tiny bit prickly, but it's very soft, so it doesn't really bother me. And then the combination of alpaca and wool with that tiny bit of acrylic gives strength to the yarn itself, so the stitch definition is great and it doesn't lose shape, which is probably the main reason why I like the yarn. Color-wise, I just pick and choose what I had in stash without really caring much to figuring out colors. So it's a orange, a blue, and a light grey that contrasts with the darker grey. I wasn't sure about this combination at all, but it turned out to be quite beautiful and I really love it. And so there, I actually made another thing with this type of yarn. So these Icelandic sweaters are everywhere, literally in shops, in fast fashion type of retailers. I'm talking about H&M, Zara, and so on. And it seems like it's very popular to have this big roundy yoke with this bold Icelandic-ish designs. So I still had a few half balls of that yarn, and I decided to make a little hat to match my jumper. I need to pause for a second to apologize to you. You can see my mouth is half paralyzed because I've been to the dentist, and this part of my underlip is still a little numb for the injection. I'm very sorry about that. I really hope you don't mind. Too much information probably, but you got it. Anyway, this hat here. I designed this pattern to match with this jumper, of course. This is a free pattern that I publish on my Ravelry shop, and I make sure to put the link below in the description. So far got about 200 downloads. I'm mind blown. We borderline made to the top 20 pattern on Ravelry, which is extraordinarily crazy. I'm mind blown by the feedback. It's a very nice little hat. We have a folded brim here, and the construction of the brim include a row of I'm not telling you what, but that makes the brim to fold automatically. If I turn this, you can see clearly the folding line. So I think you can play a little bit with the amount of fold that you want to have, the length of it, and yeah, it's just very nice. The color work, though, it's recalling slightly the Ridari sweater, but it's 100% just made up or really newly designed. So I'm very happy with that. And you don't have any crown decreases as you usually have in 4 points or a star type of thing, because I decided to scatter the decreases all around the color work so that you get a nicer shape on your head. And if I put this on, it's very, very warm, but it's exactly what my hats are kind of, what I like in a hat. It's tight, it's not slouchy at all. I despise slouchy hats for some sort of reason, and especially the ribbing part being folded and being double thickness keeps everything tight and nice on my forehead and my ears, and yeah, it's absolutely lovely. Really like the color. I am so definitely gonna make another one or play around with this pattern to see what type of combination of colors I can get. I am seeing on Ravelry and Instagram people are starting to share pictures of this hat, and yeah, I just love it very much, and all the color combinations and the yarn combination are lovely. So I need to first of all thank this yarn dyer that contacted me on Instagram. We've been talking for a while about a possible future collaborations, and they are Dark Yeoman Yarns. Is an Italian brand of yarn, an Italian yarn dyer, and they sell online as well. I will put the link below in the description, and you can find in the pattern a suggestion for their yarns as well as a possible alternative to Drops Lima. I need to thank Dark Yeoman Yarns because they've been really gracious in testing this pattern in a very, very short amount of time so that I could get all the feedback and publish the pattern straight away. The pattern is called Leafy Hat, and once again the link is below. It's free, and it wants to be a free pattern among minds that you can use to enter the knit-along, and of course the final pricing on the knit-along that I will be holding over Christmas. So let's talk knit-along now for a second before I go on with my works in progress, finished works, and so on. Knit-along. I have never run a knit-along myself, hence I'm lingering a lot, episode over episode, on questions about knit-alongs, on how to run one. Anyway, here we are. Officially, we can open this knit-along. You may want to choose one of my patterns, and the links is below in the description. They are in Ravelry or Lovecrafts as well. I have a few free patterns. The leafy hat is one of those, and a couple of garments, a lot of socks, as you well know, a lot of little tiny objects that you may want to try and knit, cowls, hats, mittens, and so on and so forth. Choose one of my pattern, or multiple if you wish, and tag me on Instagram using the hashtag An Irish Knitting Podcast, or here, or on Ravelry. If you send something here, please use the hashtag An Irish Knitting Podcast in your comments so that I can filter out comments, and at the end of the knit along I will draw a winner. We don't need to have finished works, of course, and the deadline will be the end of January. I was thinking to run it for December, but I thought that December is very busy for everybody, so yeah. End of January, finish off the knit along. Any of my patterns, tag me using the hashtag An Irish Knitting Podcast, and I will draw winners for this knit along. And so far we have some Irish yarns, a couple of patterns, and I'm still waiting for a book to come in the post, but we will have a knitting book as well as pricing. If you have any recommendation on prices that I could buy and get, let me know. I'm always happy to get more and then perhaps have a couple of winners rather than one only. So here we go. Start now. The first Irish Knitting Podcast knit along. I'm kind of yeah, worried but excited at the same time. I will talk about the knit along constantly, probably on my Vlogmas, so if you have questions, stay tuned. There may be something coming up, but if you have any ideas, questions, suggestions, put a comment here. I'm eager to talk about this, and I look forward to see all your projects or your objects. So, finished works, we got the Ridari, we got the leafy hat, and then the last finished work that we got is this beautiful pair of mittens that you have seen as a work in progress on my last episode. These are the Longhaven mittens by Karen Karn on Ravelry. It's a free pattern. I was looking for a mitten pattern for so long. I do have a couple that I designed myself, but I really didn't wanna start modifying the patterns to make just a simple pair of mittens. All of my mittens have some colorwork design, some stuff going on, and I wanted something really simple and fitting and just beautiful, like these ones. So I found Longhaven's mittens, and it's actually a mitten and hat set pattern, so you have both. I haven't knitted the hat yet, but the mittens are something that I warmly recommend. Rather than my usual mitten designs in which we have the thumb slightly positioned between the middle of the palm and the edge of the palm with the gusset that goes in the round. I don't know how to explain that, but if you are familiar with my mitten design, you know exactly what I mean. These have a thumb that is knitted exactly on the side of your hand, and it's only one pattern. I usually put my thumb exactly on the left side and on the right side, so you have to be careful of not knitting two left side or two right side. But this pattern is so great that you can actually knit the same mitten for both hands, so you basically knit two of the same, which is lovely. Something that I would modify is the thumb here. I probably can resolve this by pulling a little bit my mitten, but I think the space between the cuff and the end of the thumb is a little short, so I would probably add a couple of rows here and create a longer slant where the thumb attached to the hand, basically. But apart from that, they are absolutely lovely. I can't recommend more this pattern. It's gorgeous. I don't know why I didn't know about Karen Karn's patterns before. They are so well explained, and yeah, I warmly recommend you to check it out. Yarn wise, Drops Lima, and this is the very last bit of my grey Drops Lima. You know that I am involved in this unstashing my drops because I have been hearing a lot of politics around the drops by other knitters, podcasters, designers, and although it's very comfortable, very affordable, and easily you can find it very easily, all this controversy is kind of hitting me a little bit, and I don't want to keep talking about drops on this channel and create some controversy. So I'm trying to destash my drops, and I have a lot of drops because in Ireland it's easy to find drops and is inexpensive, and I'm always very mindful of spending too much money on yarn, to be honest. So yeah, this is my very last bit of Drops Lima. I think somewhere in the house I have a couple of more balls in odd colors that will be coming up eventually, some contrasting color design, whatever. We'll see about that if I ever find them. So these were my long-haven mittens by Karen. Now let's talk about works in progress, and I recall that I have a lot of works in progress. I don't want to have them, it's bugging my mind, but they are there and we need to talk about them. I will skip a couple. I will skip the flax sweater that I was talking about because this has been still in this couple of weeks. I haven't worked on that. I plan to bring that to my Christmas holidays when I'm traveling around, because it's easily portable, it's very light, and it doesn't require much brain power when I'm abroad, when I'm with people. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about the raised waffle blanket that you haven't heard for a while, but I work on that blanket quite a bit. If you're curious, check back my previous podcast. It's basically this stitch pattern that resemble waffle, like the cakey things. And it's gorgeous, but it's like more than 2 meters long and it takes forever. So I only have done about 20 centimeters in height. It's very slowly growing, very slowly, just because it's very boring. So those are two projects. I'm not going to talk about that, but let's talk about this little cute thing here. This is a mouse pattern. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Can you hear the wind? It's crazy windy. Anyway, I came up with this tiny pattern in a moment of desperation. I had last round of drop slim. I didn't know what to do. I just cast on a couple of stitches and I walked around and this guy came out. So it's still a work in progress, but I think it's adorable. I do love its little tail. It's basically a combination of increases and decreases. If you are knitting my Christmas bows, or if you are familiar with the shamrock design that I've done, the hearts, or the lady bird thingy, you know what I mean. It's just increasing and decreasing the right place and you get these type of things. So what I'm planning is to make him a little sweater and a little hat and publish the pattern. I think is absolutely adorable. But it's still kind of blocking, so it's not wet, but I can tell if I squish him and there's a little bit of moisture. So I'm going to very gently put him back into its blocking board. And I will keep you posted. It's not going to come up anytime soon in December, just because the pattern is quite complicated to write down. It's a lot of increasing and decreasing very shortly, so there's a lot of instruction. It's almost a row by row instructions. I have tried to to chart it in a more visual way. I wasn't able to do that, so it's going to be a line by line type of pattern. It is what it is. Anyhow, the other pattern that I am working on is, of course, my iron jumper, and this is another free pattern. Is from Karin something. Let me check quickly my Ravelry page. It is from Karin Schaffer, and it's basically a reconstruction of a very famous jumper that was in a movie. I spoke about this in my previous episode as well. It's just very nicely growing. This is the back, so I will have probably about other 10 centimeters to go until I can cast off and then start to the front. My worry is that is probably too big. Anyway, I don't know that because it's one of the first sweaters that I'm knitting in pieces, so I haven't got a bug of what I'm doing. I went for the smaller size, and I went for a smaller pair of needles and smaller yarn that I suggest, so the gauge is tighter. I couldn't still have the size that I think is fitting me. I don't know. The good thing is that I really love very much the design, and I have taught myself how to make cables without a cable needle, which is changing my life completely and changing my idea of how to knit cables. And the pleasure of knitting cables is just such a mindful way of knitting. You create these beautiful cables without even knowing that you're creating cables. Anyway, this is very slow. Still, even if I don't use a cable needle, it takes forever and ever and ever. I am using for my handsome crease pullover Drops soft tweed, which is some yarn that I got in stash because the combination of superfine alpaca and merino wool is something that I haven't seen before. It's very rustic looking, but at the same time is extraordinarily soft. It's like merino soft, yeah. And some indication on this. This is a 50-gram ball by 130 meter, 50% wool, 25 alpaca, 25 viscose. Is absolutely gorgeous. I love the color. It's my classic gray color, if you can tell. It's more leaning towards the brownish gray, a warm gray, which works very well with the cable. The cables are showing quite well, and this is working fine. It doesn't split. It has that alpaca softness and the merino as well. It's gorgeous. It's extraordinarily inexpensive as well. But in the light of getting rid of Drops Merino, I think I have just enough wool to complete the jumper here, and although I really love this yarn, I'm not going to buy anymore, or I'm imposing myself not to, but you never know how it is going. Anyway, if you are not against Drops brand and you want to try a great tweedy looking yarn but is still extraordinarily soft, this one is absolutely magnificent. Really love it. And if you are against, or if you don't like knitting with rustic yarn but you want the look of rustic yarn, I warmly recommend this because the look is just gorgeous. And yeah, it's a decay weight, so you can get basically 90% of the works here are decay, so it's very versatile. And yeah, I recall we are on a very tight schedule today. 25 minutes I can read from the viewfinder there on the camera, so it's gonna be a shorter episode, but you will have in 5 days time a lot of more content, so I am going to keep it quite short anyway. Last project is this one. Am I going completely mad? This is another jumper that I'm knitting in pieces once again. The pattern here is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if the camera can show anything, but I will definitely put some footage here or there to show you the pattern. It's just a very clever combination of a ridges between knits and purls, basically. And the back is mirroring, so it's exactly the same, so potentially you could wear this either way. It's a gorgeous fabric. The yarn that I'm using is a soft merino wool, probably it's from Rico, I have no idea. I had 3 balls of this merino decay yarn in stash without a label. I think I used one of these for another project, and then I frogged the project and I rewounded it because I have 2 without, 2 with a regular bowl cake type of thing, and 1 that has been hand winded. So I'm sure it was like that. But the important thing is where does it come from? So I happen to came in possession of this. It's a newspaper. No, it's a newspaper. It's a magazine. This is a knitting magazine that belonged to my mom. Last time when I was home, she was throwing them away, and I so very graciously collect them all and put them in a bag and brought them here to Ireland. This especially comes from the March edition 1983. I wasn't even born yet. And it's full of glorious jumpers. And the one that we are knitting is actually this one in the corner. Hopefully you can see with the shining thing. I found myself using these old books and magazines for stitches as stitch dictionaries, because they do have a lot of very clever, very vintage looking type of stitches that I do love very much. So the pattern, I don't know if I can show you the pattern, but I'm sure this is so old that nobody would care anymore. And yeah, basically this is the pattern, is this long. So it's what? Less than 50 lines altogether in a very small corner of the page. And together with that, you have a flying page here with the measurements. If you see down here, you have the teeny tiny drawing of the pieces of the jumper with all the measurements that you're supposed to get. The issue that I have with this pattern is that only it gives you one size. So looking at the measurements that the little flyer gives you, that one size could potentially fit me with some stretch. So I decided to cast on that. Now, look at this. Do we think it's small? I mean, it stretches a lot, if I can't. It stretches a lot. It's a really stretchy fabric, but it does look quite small. So now, how do you go along with this type of patterns? Do you, I don't know, do your math? And then how do you treat the creases and increases? I don't know. I would love to try and recreate a few of these patterns from these old books, not just because they are, of course, family type of books, but as well because all the designs are absolutely gorgeous. And it's been what, 40 years, 1983, 22, 23, 29 years, 40 years since they published these books, and in 40 years the patterns haven't changed a lot, the designs haven't changed too much, and they are gorgeous looking. I really love the feeling of these patterns, and yeah, I would like to try and make them. So if you are an experienced knitter and maybe you use this type of patterns back in the days, or nowadays you have them, how do you treat the sizing? Is there something that I'm missing? Is probably something in the magazine itself that tells you how to treat a pattern? I don't know. I think I looked around the magazine, but I couldn't really find much. And yeah, let me know, because I am very, very curious about that. So the pattern is 50 lines, probably less. It's a very short pattern. They tell you how to make the stitch. They tell you how many stitches to cast on. They tell you what gauge you should have, and this is a 20 stitches per 10 centimeters. They don't tell you a row gauge, probably it's not important. They don't tell you the measurements, they only give you that little teeny tiny drawing for the measurements. And they do tell you with a very old way of saying where to cast off and how many stitches to cast off based on that original cast on type of thing. Yeah, I'm so fascinated about this thing. So please help me in this quest of understanding these books, and that would be quite important for me, and I would absolutely love to make a few of these jumpers for myself. Last little tiny thing, yarn, merino. I remember working with merino wool as soon as I started knitting kind of seriously a few years ago. And I remember throwing away a sweater, a beautiful colorwork sweater, very big, because I washed it and the size went completely off. It was horrible. But I think, you know how I am all fussy about itchiness of the yarn. I think merino wool would definitely solve this issue. So the plan here is to wait until Monday, because I'm gonna get paid tomorrow and because I'm away tomorrow, so I can't receive yarn, and place an order of some more balls of this, because I need to finish this sweater, if I can find even where I bought this yarn, but it's a white DK merino, so I think anything would work. And if I can find some 4-ply very thin merino wool, I would love to try and knit another colorwork sweater like a Marius or a Sadness pattern, something I'm quite familiar with a tight gauge, in order to achieve a fabric that resembles what in America is called a sweatshirt. I don't know why, but I have the feeling that this yarn here, this merino wool, it's exactly like a sweatshirty type of fabric, which is by far my favorite type of fabric. I love fleece, I love a sweatshirt, it's just very comfortable on my skin. Wool is lovely, I adore wool, but I need to wear something underneath all the time, otherwise I can't cope with that. So if I can get the hang on merino, how to knit merino wool, that would definitely change my life. It will be an expensive game, as we know merino is quite expensive, but it will definitely be worth it. So if you have any recommendation for me, any yarns idea, I'm looking for a 4-ply merino, a very thin fingering weight merino that is not breaking my bank, of course. Let me know. Anyway, that was it. So short and sweet, hopefully. I will see you in a few days with the first episode of my Advent calendar. Hopefully I will be able to carry on through December with that. Once again, thanks to everybody that joined this channel. We had a nice jump in subscribers, which is so nice. I mean, it feels like my tiny community is growing a little bit. Don't forget to get your free hat pattern and to enter the knit along for Christmas. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving if you are in the US celebrating Thanksgiving. I have no idea what Thanksgiving is like. I must do some research on that. I know that you eat turkey and all those beautiful pumpkin dishes and sweet potatoes and stuff like that. But I don't know about the meaning of Thanksgiving, so I should look into that. But happy Thanksgiving to you all, if you are in the US or if you are abroad and celebrating Thanksgiving. Hopefully I hope you have an amazing time with your family, friends, and have a lot of food. And if you have some interesting tradition for Thanksgiving, let me know. I am really curious to understand the behinds of Thanksgiving, the meanings and local traditions. It's always very nice. I'll see you in a few days. Bye bye.